Welcome back to Talking in Spirals, your favorite podcast where there's a lot of chaos.
Welcome back. We're so happy to have you. This is episode 9. We are about to close out season 1, which is insane.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, as always, wanted to start off by saying thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking around for 9 whole episodes of absolute nonsense. You guys are the best. So, in today's episode, we wanted to kind of chat a little bit about things that have been going on, couple of fun life updates on both of our ends, just some things that have been really interesting. And of course, it is Earth Month. The day that this episode comes out is just after Earth Day. So we wanted to talk about the entire concept of Earth Month and sustainability within mainstream culture, things like that. Maybe even a little bit of talk about greenwashing and things to look out for this time of year. If you're new to this podcast, we talk all things slow living, eco-friendly lifestyle stuff, minimalism, conscious consumerism, etc. So if that sounds like your jam, we would really appreciate if you would rate and review the podcast and stick around and keep listening. We're about to close out season 1, but we have some exciting plans for season 2 coming this summer.
I am so excited. I just have to point out that I have an Amazon box on my printer behind me, and we're talking about being conscious consumers.
Hey, imperfect environmentalism, am I right? And you just ousted yourself because there's no video.
All right, future Maria, cut that.
No, don't. Hashtag relatable.
Oh my God. Listen, maybe that should be my hyperfixation, is buying things on Amazon's Second
Ooh, I love
Life
that.
program, like their
Yeah.
warehouse program. I've been doing that for like any sort of office supplies that I've been needing. So I just get perfectly fine stuff just in damaged packaging.
Okay, let's talk about that. We should. So, usually to start each episode, we kick it off with hyperfixations that we both have because that's a tendency that we both have to get exclusively intensely hyperfixated on very niche topics. And every episode, there's always something new to share. So, Maria, what is your current hyperfixation?
I have 2.
Ooh.
The first one is the Amazon warehouse program. You can buy perfectly fine items just with damaged packaging and saving them from the landfill, oftentimes for a pretty high discounted price. And yes, shopping on Amazon is not very sustainable, but that's a more sustainable way to do it. And we're all about imperfect environmentalism. And unfortunately, Amazon has made themselves as a company almost impossible to not shop from because they carry literally everything. Like, you can't just walk into a Target and get the same sort of things that you would find on Amazon. But there's definitely nuance with that too, because then you get a lot of junk and a lot of stuff that breaks after 2 uses on Amazon. Yeah, that's one of my hyperfixations. Shopping the Second Chance program, the warehouse deals, the Second Life, because you're saving things that would have otherwise gone into a landfill. And it's also returned purchases. So not all of the returns go to the landfill. They just get resold and discounted.
So it's not perfect, but it's better than just mindlessly perusing Amazon and getting packages delivered to your house all the time and not really thinking about the consequences of that. Like, if you're going to use Amazon, here's a more sustainable way to do it. And I personally still have an Amazon Prime account. I don't use it very often. Like, I would say every couple of months I'll get something that
Yeah.
I really need that, like, it's so weird, just like weird shaped light bulbs and stuff for certain light fixtures in my house, and that I've gone to Target and I've looked, and I've gone to Home Depot and I can't find it, and I just use Amazon and it's there the next day. It's pretty scary how convenient it is.
It really is, but there's really nothing like it. And I started to do some of this research as my small business has been doing really well. So for example, instead of buying plastic bubble mailers to ship things out, I went and tried to find fully recyclable paper mailers. And I was able to get a pack of 250 on Amazon that were honeycomb on the inside, no plastic, for I think it was $90. But any other business that I went to get those honeycomb mailers the size that I needed was over $200. So it's like a huge cost difference.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of issues with that itself,
Well,
but
as a small business owner, I mean, there's just waste that's going to be generated, so we might as well do the best that we can.
exactly.
Well, that's a pretty good hyperfixation. You want me to share mine and then you share your other one?
Yeah, because I guess my second one's like a life update.
Yeah, it is. I can't wait for you to share the second one.
What is your hyperfixation?
My current hyperfixation also relates to you. You're the star of today's episode. It is your sourdough recipe.
That the internet is hating on right now.
The internet hates everything I love. Anyone who is tired of hearing two white girls talk about sourdough for extended periods of time, just skip like, a couple minutes ahead because I am who I am. We are who we are.
So sorry.
So, Maria is actually she's not the reason I got into sourdough, but I wanted to for a long time. And then we talked for months about how easy it was for her. And she really kind of introduced me to the idea that it didn't have to be super complicated because you see so much sourdough content and it looks like this is just a full time job. It's like people doing stretch and folds on their dough every 20 minutes for hours at a time. And I did master, okay, not master, but I did learn to do it the traditional way because I'm like that and I just like wanted to dive all the way in. But then when it came to wanting to regularly make sourdough, I don't know a lot of people who have that much time to dedicate. I mean, if you're not familiar with sourdough, the traditional process of doing it and the way that you'll see it done when you look it up, it's so hands-on. It's just you mix flour and water, you let it sit for an hour, which is called autolyzation, and then you add in your starter and then you add in some water and some salt and then you mix that and you let it sit for 30 minutes and then you do stretch and folds. It's very tedious, it's very hands-on, and I think a lot of people are pushed away from doing it because it seems so
It's daunting.
it's like something that the leisure
Yeah.
class would do, it's just like who has 6 hours to be having a timer go off every few minutes to do a new step and like yeah, so turns out it doesn't have to be that way. I think people think that sourdough it's so finicky that you're just going to kill it, you're going to mess it up. Like I haven't found that to be true.
What's finicky is your starter. If you start a starter from scratch, that's the part that's finicky. You really have to wait until your starter is mature and strong enough to make bread,
That could take months.
which can take months. So that's what gets finicky. You see a lot of people online, because I'm part of like a lot of Facebook beginner sourdough groups. You see a lot of people online that are baking with their starter that they made a week ago and they're not getting good bread. It's because you need to wait for your starter to mature. The sourdough bread
Yeah.
isn't the part that's like finicky
Yeah.
that trips a lot of people up. It's the starter.
It's the starter, and I just don't recommend that people make a starter. Like, just get one. I got mine from a friend of mine who got it from someone else, and it's 100 years old. I don't actually have Maria's famous starter.
I should send you some. My starter is a combination of 3 different starters. Well, technically now 4 because I had to make a starter to make the video a month ago. I went through this phase when I first got into sourdough of finding the oldest starter possible. So I have a starter from like the 1900s in there, a starter from the 1800s, and then one that when the Black Plague was around. So my starter is a combination of several starters, which it's just mixed.
Yeah, like when people say, oh, this is 1,000 years old, like, you never actually know. But basically, the logic goes that the older, the stronger. So the longer it's been around, the longer it's had to strengthen
Yep.
and get more like potent. Again, the sourdough experts are cringing right now, and the people that know nothing about sourdough are hating this. So
So sorry.
nothing like a crowd pleaser. That is our podcast.
Have you seen the videos of people bringing their sourdough bread into the car with them and doing like stretch and folds because they have like their kids' soccer practice or something?
You're kidding.
I wish.
Dude, they need your recipe.
I
They need your
know.
recipe.
Stretch and folds are something that's very new in the sourdough community. And by new, I mean like from what I can tell, the last 30 years.
That's something that I think people need to know, like, because people will absolutely roast you if you do sourdough a different type of way or if you don't do it the way that they think is traditional. But in a commercial bakery where they're baking sourdough, they're not
No.
taking hours for each tiny loaf. Like, they're making mass quantities of
Yeah.
bread. There's just no way
Yeah.
that they can do that. Like all the food that I make is really simple and approachable, and I want people to just be able to just like do it with ingredients they have in their home already. So, yeah, people really overcomplicate bread making. Like, they
Yes.
really want it to be this like exclusive club that not everyone has access to, and it's just,
Yes.
super hands-on, takes tons of time. So it doesn't need to be that way. When I watched a bunch of sourdough content in the beginning, I was so overwhelmed. And there's so much content where they're like, here's what to do, and here's the ratio you should feed your starter at, and here's how much time, and here's how to troubleshoot this. And it's like, it shouldn't be that difficult, you know? So, anyways, I've been loving Maria's easy sourdough bread recipe. It has less holes than if you do the stretch and folds. It's like better for sandwiches and toasts and stuff that way. Tastes great.
Yeah. It's like
And
a good like everyday bread.
yeah,
Like you
totally.
can use it for anything.
Yeah, I've been having avocado toast like every day with it. And it's great for grilled cheese because the cheese doesn't like squish out of the holes and burn on the pan. Speaking from experience. And also something I've been really liking, which is a classic trad wife recipe,
Oh God.
using my sourdough discard to make these little pizzas in a cast iron.
Yes.
It's so easy. If you're a sourdough baker, you have tons of discard. You have tons of discard. You just take your discard, preheat your oven with a cast iron pan inside, and get the pan like nice and hot. Make sure it's well seasoned, and then literally just dump like a cup of sourdough starter or discard right on the pan. Bake it for like 10 to 15 minutes, take it out, put toppings on, let the cheese melt, put it back in, and you have a pizza in like 2 seconds. It's more like a flatbread. It's not going to rise, like a traditional dough, but it's like such an easy lunch, and it's a great way to use up discard.
I would also like to say that I loved the fact that you're using your great grandmother's
Yeah.
cast iron pan, like sustainability queen
Yeah.
over here.
Yes. I've been using it I think I've had it for like 10 years. It was my great grandmother's, lodge classic. Old school cast iron.
Amazing.
I mean, that's the beauty of products that are made to last. Like, cast irons are made to be handed down from generation to generation. Like, this isn't that non-stick stuff.
Mhm.
There's a time and a place for a non-stick pan, but a good cast iron, knowing how to use a good cast iron, which I'm still figuring out, that'll go a long way. So it was my great grandmother's on a farm in Alabama, and then it was my grandmother's, and then it was my dad's, and now it's mine. My dad has a few of her other ones, but
I love it.
if I ever have a kid, it'll be passed down.
I love it.
So, Mama, thanks for helping me cook. So, I have been dying for you to finally tell the people your hyperfixation, your actual hyperfixation, your actual entire life behind the scenes over the past couple of months. The only thing that you've been focused on, the main time sucker of your days for the past few months. Tell the people what you've actually been hyperfixated on and what you're actually about to release.
So I've been really busy. In February, a publisher contacted me asking if I was interested in writing a cookbook. So the news is out. I wrote a cookbook. I did it.
She wrote a real cookbook, you guys. All of her recipes are going to be out in an actual physical book for you to buy and enjoy and use every single day. It's so exciting.
I'm so excited. And I didn't even tell you, I got the cover proof in.
Oh my God.
So I have like a physical book.
No way. Can I see
with
it?
my face on it.
You don't have to. You want to? Okay, you get my live reaction.
Yeah, it's downstairs. I can run and grab it.
Okay, Maria just went downstairs to show me the cookbook, but she has been working so hard. This was such a quick turnaround. She found out about this opportunity in February, so it's just been a couple of months, and she's been working so hard, and I can't wait for you guys to see the book. I'm so proud of her. She works harder than anyone I know, and she's so good at everything, so I'm sure the cookbook is going to be awesome because her recipes are always really good.
Don't make me cry.
Okay. Let me see. Oh my God. Are you kidding
There's my
me?
cover.
Look at your face. I didn't realize that you were going to be on the cover. That's amazing.
I put my face on the cover.
Oh my gosh.
And then here's the back.
So can we tell the people the name of the book?
Yeah, so I wrote a cookbook called From Scratch Restocks and Recipes. So
I'm so excited.
The inside of this is just a notebook.
Oh, it's not the actual, it's just for you to have the cover.
It's just the cover, yeah, to test print the cover, to test proof it.
So you have a notebook.
I have a notebook with my face on it.
I didn't realize that's how it was done. So you know what you can do in that notebook? Write your next cookbook. You can use that notebook now to write down the next recipes.
But yeah, so this is it.
That's so exciting. So when can the people get your cookbook?
So pre-orders for the book started on April 17th, but the cookbook itself publishes on May 7th. So it will be in your hands on May 7th and it's print to order. So if you've pre-ordered, it will be at your door very quickly, but if not, it'll take about a week for them to actually physically make the cookbook and then send it to you.
Yeah, so it's a different style of publishing. It's a little bit more sustainable because it's not like a bunch of books are printed at once and then you have to
Yes.
find a home for every single book and worry about numbers. Like they're printed to order. So if you want a book, it will be made specifically for you and it'll be shipped to your door. And if you do want to get one, I'm sure they're going to be all over Maria's social media. So you can just go to her
Yes.
page and she'll have everything linked there so you can order the book. And I'm so excited for people to have like a physical copy of all of your best recipes. I was thinking about that recently. Like all the recipes I make, they're just in random places on the internet, like on my phone, like in my notes app, bookmarked on Safari, and then like
Yes.
on my desktop, on my Pinterest. They're all over the place. Like, I really do think it's so awesome to be getting back to using like a physical cookbook and like bookmarking, or even better yet, like having a book of all of the recipes that you use all the time. So I'm stoked to have the cookbook, and I bet it's even nice for you to have the cookbook because now all your recipes are just in one place with your face on it.
Yes, they were everywhere. They were everywhere. I think
I know, just chaos, right? That was like most of the work, just getting them all like
finding them,
together.
because some of them were like in my notes app on my phone. Some of them were just like in a video from a year ago. Some of them were written on a post-it note in my cookbooks.
Seriously, that's how mine are too. It's actually like really exciting to have the opportunity to be forced to like get them all together.
Yeah, it took a lot of time. I spent like 3 weeks hardcore doing it all, but then part of the problem was, as a mostly video creator, I didn't have any photos of what was going in the
Mhm.
cookbook, nor could I take screenshots of videos because they just weren't high enough quality.
Yeah, so you had to remake everything and photograph everything with the DSLR and like high res, and the photographs are really beautiful. So I am so excited to have a physical
It's gonna be
copy.
here so soon.
Maria very suspiciously asked me for my address a couple of days ago and wouldn't tell me what it was for. So I'm really hoping that.
It is not, but do you want to know what it is for?
Yes. Are you going to tell me?
Yeah, this is only part of it. I haven't sent it yet, so I have some of them here.
Wait, should I just wait to be surprised?
No, you can be surprised for the other part.
Okay.
I made stickers for us for our
Oh my
podcast.
god. They're so cute. I love it. You guys, she made Talking in Spiral stickers. Oh my gosh, I love them.
So that's part of what's coming to you. Probably the end of this week,
They're
later next week.
so
I'm
cute.
obsessed.
I'll have to show Iggy, my friend who is our artist, our graphic designer. She'll be so excited that her design is on a sticker. I'm obsessed. We've never even like talked about on this podcast like the name, have we?
I don't think so.
Or just like
Welcome to episode 9. This is our podcast name. This is why.
Ah, okay. So we wanted initially to call our podcast Talking in Circles because of, we talk a lot and we talk in circles and we talk about topics that are like all across the board. And that name was already taken. Obviously, we were really excited about like the concept of like circularity within sustainability. It just had a bunch of different levels and a bunch of different layers. And so then we were thinking about how we're always like spiraling. And so we decided to call it Talking in Spirals because there's also like a significance within art history of spirals, being our connection to the environment, to the universe, to people around us. The spiral symbolizes so much. Spirals kind of represent like the cycle of life as it relates to, birth, growth, and death. And that doesn't have to be just for people, that can just be for the planet and just the life cycle. So within sustainability and then within the more chaotic part of our conversations and our content, Talking in Spirals is the name that we came up with for all those reasons. And we had a really great time coming up with designs that with my friend Iggy, who did our art to kind of represent that. So now we have stickers. That's very exciting. Honestly, this episode has been really off the rails. We are quite a bit into the episode. We've just been giving like life updates and haven't even talked about the actual topic. It's pretty on brand. I'm not complaining. So, Marie wrote a book. Really exciting. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it.
It's like a bucket list thing.
Yes, and I've always kind of struggled with my relationship with food, and over the last year or two, I've really kind of helped to heal that relationship, and that's what came out of this book. So almost all of the recipes are super easy, super beginner friendly.
Healthy without being too hyper fixated on being healthy.
Yes, and I share exactly how to preserve every single meal so you know how to double batch and keep it. So I talk about a lot about preserving.
She's very food waste focused in the book.
Yes, I have a whole chapter with food waste recipes, and I also talk about like different guidance on how to use different parts of vegetables that you wouldn't regularly use. And it was really important for me to share recipes that had easy to find, accessible ingredients that were not overly expensive too, because most people don't have access to really fancy things.
Right, and then it's kind of wasteful because there'll be a recipe where they're like, "Oh, you need this balsamic glaze with raspberry reduction," and you buy it, and it's like, "Cool, I used
Yes,
it for one recipe, and now it's just sitting in the fridge."
exactly.
So I think focusing on pantry staples and like multi-use ingredients is really good, and I know that you do that in this book.
Yes.
So I hope all of you get your hands on a copy. It's really exciting. Do you know how much it's going to cost?
It's $29.99.
A steal.
Yes. I actually just saw a sourdough creator that released a cookbook for $40.
Yeah, that's kind of a
And
lot.
I was like, oh,
I'm sure it's a good book, but everything's expensive now, but I feel like $29 is totally reasonable. So,
well, and a lot of that cost is because it's print to order.
yeah.
But I really wanted to be as sustainable as possible with this.
And it's a hardcover book.
Yeah.
It's a hardcover book. So $29 for a sturdy hardcover book, like that's
Yes.
totally to be expected.
And I also want to mention that I want you to write all over this cookbook. If you find that you do something different for a recipe that works better for you, write on it.
Yes.
Don't keep it in pristine, pretty condition.
Yes, just like the sourdough stuff. We're not taking ourselves too seriously and
No.
overcomplicating it, right? What works for you and be realistic. Don't stick to something just because that's what's written if that's not what's going to work for you. So, very excited for you. I hope that you and your family celebrate this exciting chapter in your life and this achievement because someone once gave me the advice that if you don't take the time to intensely celebrate your own accomplishments, no one else will. So I think that's important. We got to celebrate our accomplishments. If I was with you, I would 100% take you out, but we live about a 17-hour drive from each other. So sorry, I'll Venmo you. Get yourself a beer on me.
Okay, I'm dying. I would like a Graham update, please. How is Graham?
Oh my gosh. So, if you guys are active listeners, you'll know that I have a stray cat that just showed up in my yard in January. He just kind of showed up, and his name is Graham. So, he's doing great. I can't remember the last time I talked about him on the podcast. He was my hyperfixation, one of these episodes. There was like a period of time when I thought he belonged to somebody else because he was just so friendly and cute. I just figured he was like a neighbor's cat. And then it became clear that he had been like abandoned. I think some people down the street got evicted and they left him. I don't know
Poor kitty.
what the situation was, but he's just such an angel. So everybody was right. Exactly what you guys all said was going to happen happened. I'm obsessed with him, and I guess he's my cat now. So I'm not technically supposed to have cats in here in this house, but he is outside most of the time, and I think that he likes that. Like, he really likes to be outside. Every time he comes in, he kind of wants to go out. He'll hang out for like an hour and then he goes and scratches the door. So there's no litter box in here. He just goes out and he like lets me know when he needs to go. So he spends the night outside, but I love him so much. I took him to the vet. I got him all his shots. I had him tested for all major diseases, parasites, all of the above, and he came back clear. He was already fixed when he showed up, so that's very convenient. He got his rabies vaccine. He's all up to date on everything. I treated him for fleas. I treated him for ear mites. So he just needed to gain some weight. He was very skinny. So that was my main concern. That's why I took him to the vet, just to make sure that there wasn't something like underlying going on. And they just said, no, he was just starving. So I know,
Oh.
super sad. So he weighed 8 pounds. So really, really tiny. And I could feel all of his bones. So the vet told me just to start feeding him double and feed him fatty, wet food every day. So since I've done that, he's honestly already gained weight and it hasn't even been long at all. So
Oh.
I think he was just starving. I love him. So I travel a lot and I don't know what I'm going to do when I travel. Like, I have no idea what the plan is because I've never had a pet as an adult. So we'll figure that out. But that's the Graham update. He's great. I love him so much. He's the best cat ever.
He's so freaking cute.
And he's so sweet. I've never met a cat that, like, he likes when you rub his
So
tummy.
does mine, yeah.
Like, he doesn't even react.
That is not a normal cat thing.
No, he's so chill. Like, he loves when I hold him like a baby. He just loves to be held and cuddled. He is so affectionate and so sweet. Like, he's an angel. So I feel very lucky that he just like showed up in my life.
He chose you.
Yeah, and he happened to have such a good personality. Everyone is obsessed with him. So, yep, that's the Graham update. Maria's writing a book and I have a cat now, okay?
It's fine.
You can decide which one of those life updates is more important.
Honestly, Graham is. Let's be honest here. It's Graham.
2 accomplishments. One that you worked very hard to have happen, and one that I worked very hard to not have happen.
Well, and now you have several cats that are coming to say hello.
Yeah, that's the problem. He told his friends that this is like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and now there's like a million cats in the yard.
So, pet brands, if you'd like to sponsor us, let us know.
Yeah, this guy needs a brand deal. He needs to start pulling his weight. All right. So now that we've gotten a bunch of life updates out of the way,
Happy Earth Month, everybody.
happy Earth Month. I hope everyone is having an awesome Earth Month so far and that your Earth Day was amazing. It was also my birthday.
Happy belated birthday, the Earth Day Sustainability Queen.
Thank you so much. We record these episodes a little bit in advance. So at the time that you're listening to this, Earth Day has not happened yet. I hope that you guys had an awesome Earth Day. And I hope that I had an awesome birthday because I really don't want to have a sad birthday. Do you get the birthday blues? Because I do.
Sometimes, yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, I get a little sad.
This was the first year that I got the birthday blues because I turned 26
Yeah.
and then I had to like get off my parents' health insurance and like that gave me birthday blues.
That's a bummer. Yeah, that's a bummer. I get birthday blues because I think I have like expectations for the day and it like overwhelms me. And then if it I don't know, I just don't want to have to be like organizing something for myself, and I feel like a burden when I ask other people to organize something. But I also really want to celebrate life and have a good time. And it's my 29th, so it's kind of a big one. It's the last year of my 20s. So
You're almost 30, flirty, and thriving.
oof, that gives me the heebie-jeebies, but you know, aging is beautiful. Better than the alternative. So, Maria, how do you feel about Earth Month?
I have a lot of feelings about Earth Month. I don't know if I should go first.
Why?
This year in particular, I've seen a lot of Earth Month sales and a lot of brands that are not sustainable brands claiming they are sustainable, which I guess happens every year and every month of every year. And that is greenwashing. I feel like the greenwashing has been hard this time of year and it has not gotten any better.
Yeah, it's pretty much the time of year where you see greenwashing most prevalent. So, we wanted to kind of talk about some things to look out for when it comes to greenwashing. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. This time of year is really bad for brands that are not very sustainable to try to claim to be sustainable to up their sales. So it's really hard to determine whether or not a brand is sustainable or greenwashing. And there's definitely several things that we look for in brands to know whether they're actually sustainable or whether they're greenwashing. If it's a big brand that their products are not very sustainable, but they just slap an Earth Month logo on something,
They put a leaf on it.
or they make their packaging green or brown and earthy colors, but don't have any sort of like backing up of those claims, it's probably greenwashing.
Greenwashing is an epidemic. If you're not familiar with the term, it's basically, it's just a form of advertising, marketing in which deceptive language is used to kind of make the public think that products or policies are eco-friendly, and they're not. So greenwashing is something I like to think of as it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, this is bad. This is inherently misleading the public into thinking that certain things are sustainable when they maybe aren't. But there's also an argument that's been made in recent years that greenwashing is indicative of the fact that sustainability and environmentalism are becoming mainstream.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing, ultimately.
Yeah,
It means greenwashing itself is not a good thing, but it's culturally indicative of good things happening, which is that people are now aware of the climate crisis. They're more aware of the plastic crisis. They're more educated on that topic, and more people are interested in making sustainable choices in terms of the things that they buy and the things that they invest in. So brands are needing to position themselves as being eco-friendly. And that it's complicated, but ultimately, I mean, 30 years ago, people just didn't even care, right?
true.
So at least it's kind of indicative of us taking steps in the right direction. I hope that makes sense. What do you think?
Yes. To be fair, progress is progress. So I find it very good that some big brands are making steps toward being more sustainable. There's always more work to be done, and there's always going to be more work that needs to be done to make our world a more sustainable place. But progress is progress. These bigger brands are starting to make steps in the right direction. But if these campaigns end at the end of April and you don't see any real changes being made, it's probably greenwashing. And our really good friend, Chris, who we've definitely shouted out before on this podcast, Crystal and Geyer, who also has her own podcast, Mind, Body, Planet, during the month of March, she ran an entire series about is it sustainable or is it greenwashing? And she does the research for you on sustainable and sustainable-ish brands. She lays out in each video reasons why and reasons why a brand may or may not be sustainable or whether or not it's greenwashing. And her series has been incredibly helpful and has made me think about things that I didn't think about before.
Yeah, that series is awesome. I love, because I trust her judgment and I know
Yes.
how she looks into this stuff. So it's pretty nice to like go to her page and see a 30-second video breaking down exactly why a brand is or is not greenwashing.
And she backs it up with research too.
She backs it up, and it's always really nice to find out that a brand is kind of unexpectedly not greenwashing.
Yes.
Like I remember she did one about Stanley.
Yes. Yes.
Stanley Cups, and how Stanley Cups, the company, Stanley, yep, Maria's got to make her Stanley Cup noises. It's like a little bell. Like,
Oh my God.
shake my Owala noises.
Also sustainable if you're buying one.
This is a water bottle podcast. For the record, I did a clean canteen deal just a few days ago. So go buy a clean canteen. They're amazing. She breaks down, and lots of creators do, content on brands greenwashing, and they'll call out brands when they're like actively greenwashing. But I love Chris's series
Yeah.
because she does brands that I've always kind of wondered about. I think it's a need that we have, guides, and kind of like, I feel that as a society, as environmentalists, we really need that kind of information, that kind of research into brands. For that reason, I love, online databases and guides about whether or not brands are sustainable. Like, for example, we're going to talk a little bit more about fashion and slow fashion, sustainable fashion in the next episode, but I'm a huge fan in that regard. I'm a huge fan of the website called Good on You. It's an entire database about fashion, and they do research and then they do ratings as to whether or not brands are sustainable. I immediately go to Good on You to look up any brand that claims to be sustainable.
Cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. You can go on today and look up any brand. It's great. So
stay tuned and listen to our next episode if you want to hear more about that.
yeah, for sure. So Chris's videos are great when it comes to like sustainable brands, or, brands that you see in Target that put a green leaf on it and you just immediately assume that it's more eco-friendly. That
Mhm.
isn't necessarily the case. It's just something that we need to look out for today in this day and age, especially around this time of year. It's something that we need to be very cognizant of and very aware of. Once you understand the signs of greenwashing, it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, and I do want to also say that We fall for greenwashing too sometimes. It is not always clear cut whether or not something is greenwashing. I've definitely bought products before that, now that I think about it, were definitely greenwashing. Like the eco-friendly Scrub Daddy,
I bought that too.
but also I love Scrub Daddy.
It does such a good job.
And they have a Scrub Daddy recycling program, so like maybe it's not the best example of greenwashing, but
Well, sustainability is a spectrum. We always talk
yes.
about this. Like sustainability, what's sustainable for me might not be sustainable for you. What's sustainable
Yes.
for you might not be sustainable for me, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's things that I'm going to use every single day forever and always that are not going to work for other people, and I'm going to get a ton of use out of them, and I'm going to
Mhm.
make sure to use them in an eco-friendly, mindful way. And that's not the case for everyone and everything. But what we're talking about with greenwashing is like straight up, this is not an eco-friendly product. If you look into the characteristics of greenwashing, there was an article written by TerraChoice in 2007, and they came out with a database called the 7 Sins of Greenwashing, the main ways that brands participate in greenwashing. So I just want to go ahead and read those so you guys can keep an eye out.
Ooh.
So I'm sure I'm going to get roasted for this, but I'm reading off of Wikipedia because honestly, this is a really, really good descriptor. It's very clear cut way of explaining to people exactly the ways that brands greenwash. Like this is really well done. And I think it's quite to the point. So number one is the hidden trade-off, a claim that a product is green based on an unreasonably narrow set of attributes without attention to other critical environmental issues. Number two is no proof, a claim that cannot be substantiated by easily accessible information or a reliable third-party certification. That one is huge.
Especially because a lot of brands will make up their own logos for certifications.
Right. So, for example, like the Leaping Bunny certified
Mhm.
products, that's a third party certification that indicates that a product is not using animal testing. It is cruelty free. It's not tested on animals. And brands have to go out of their way to get that certification. It costs money. It's pretty rigorous criteria that you have to meet to get that certification. And a lot of brands will just put an image of a bunny.
Yeah. A black or a white bunny right on their packaging. That's nothing like the Leaping Bunny certification.
And this stuff is not universally regulated. So you can just do that.
Yeah, and the other one that kills me too is when people put a recycling symbol on something, but it's not regularly curbside recyclable. Like what kills me is those plastic poly mailers. They'll say like, "Oh, I'm recyclable," but they're only recyclable if you take them to the plastic bag drop-offs in some grocery stores. They're not curbside recyclable. So you have to really keep an eye out on some of those different logos, because if they're not ultra specific, or if they're not the exact Leaping Bunny certification, they're likely not. There's nothing to back it up.
This is actually number 4 on the list here. It says worshiping false labels, a claim that
There you go.
through words or images gives the impression of a third-party endorsement where none exists. As a perfect example. So I immediately think of bioplastics.
Yes.
I immediately think of when you go to a coffee shop and you get a little iced latte and they hand you a cup that's got some green leaves on the plastic and it says, I'm compostable. Like, it's not. It's not compostable. It's commercially compostable.
Do you have a commercial composting site near you? Because I don't.
No, and you live in the liberal bastion that is New York. I live in Florida.
Yeah.
There's no commercial composting facility. And even if there was, we don't have pickup for compost here. So,
Yes.
and people, it's done generally out of ignorance. I think that these small coffee shops that get compostable cups, they think that they're doing a good thing. The reality is that is not the case. It's greenwashing. It's textbook greenwashing.
And to some degree, buying bioplastic is better than buying straight up plastic silverware. Like I think about this.
Yes.
I think about this a lot.
There's debate on this topic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It to some degree it is better, but you need to realize the nuance that goes with it, that it might be better in some ways, but it's also not perfect.
Well, the best option is to bring a reusable cup
Well, yeah, of course.
if you can. Anyways, moving on, we're going to backtrack and go to number 3, which is vagueness. A poorly defined or broad claim that the consumer will likely misunderstand its meaning. All natural, for example, doesn't necessarily mean green. So, like, companies will use this very vague language that sort of implies that something is really eco friendly when it's not. I mean, it's pretty self explanatory.
And it's not
It's
regulated.
not regulated. That term is not regulated. The same way that when food products are advertised as
Which is crazy to me that it's not regulated.
yeah, when food products are advertised as being
Mhm.
natural, that doesn't mean anything.
It's crazy to me that that's not regulated.
Yeah. But I mean, anything could be considered natural,
Yeah.
right? It's like it doesn't, I don't know. So, number 5, irrelevance. A claim that may be truthful, but unimportant or unhelpful to consumers seeking environmentally preferable products.
There are in several situations where companies have main offices in places like California or New York or LA, but do all of their manufacturing overseas, and they will say the office
Designed in California.
designed
Yeah.
in California, but will also say that their California facility is solar powered or is wind powered and very sustainable.
It's an office for 10 people. Yeah.
It's an office for 10 people when most of their manufacturing is overseas or in factories that are not as sustainable. So
Exactly.
that's a great example of that.
Yeah. So, number 6, lesser of two evils. A claim that may be true within the product category, but risks distracting consumers from the more significant environmental impact of the category. Like when a product says this packaging is 75% recyclable or something, and it's like, but it's packaging for an unsustainable product.
Yes.
Right. And then number 7 is just fibbing, a claim that is simply false. The organization noted that by 2010, approximately 95% of consumer products in the US claiming to be green were discovered to commit at least one of these sins. So greenwashing is rampant. It's all around us. It's something to be very aware of. It's something to keep an eye out for, especially in April.
Yes. It is very early in April still, but yet the greenwashing is going strong. I have noticed too this year that a lot of sustainable brands have not been running Earth Day sales. Have you noticed that too?
I have. I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a great thing. I think a lot of sustainable brands are pushing less and less overconsumption of sustainable items.
Yeah, I think that the conversation, especially in recent years, around sustainability has really shifted in a positive way. It's really shifted over to being more about your consumption habits. And I think that's great, using what you already have. I mean, that's what we preach on this podcast all the time. So it's good to see that that actually might be
Mhm.
gaining some mainstream traction. That's always nice.
I agree. It makes me really happy that a lot of brands are not running Earth Day sales. So I hope that you had a wonderful Earth Month filled with lots of fun activities. You can go plant a tree, go thrifting, go spend some time outside.
And as always, Earth Month and Earth Day are not the only time of year when you should be focusing on the environment. It's kind of absurd that we even need to have a day that's all
Correct.
about the earth. Every day should be about protecting our environment. It's the most valuable resource that we have. Every single other resource comes from it. So, this is not a trend. This is not a passing holiday. This is not something that's going to stop on May 1st for those of us who care about the planet and about people. This is every day, all the time. This is something that's very important. And target marketing campaigns, that's just not what it's actually about. It's actually about me and my birthday,
True.
okay?
The girl born on Earth Day.
Everything is about me.
You're not wrong. And there's nothing bad about that.
This is my show. So, thank you guys so much for listening and for being here. We have one more episode of season 1.
Oh my god.
It's going to be out in 2 weeks. I hope that you follow along. I hope that you listen to our season finale. We're already working on season 2 and we're so excited. We're going to ramp it up. We're going to do things a little bit differently. If you have any recommendations, you can leave them in our comment section. You can message us. You can let us know what you want to hear in season 2. We're so excited. This podcast has been like an absolute dream.
Yes, we want to hear from you. It has has been so much fun. I couldn't have asked for a better co-host, and I'm sure we'll get more sappy on the next episode. It's been a great time, and this has really been a passion project for both of us and something that we were really excited to launch in the new year, and we're so happy to have you here joining with us.
So thanks for being here. And that wraps up today's spiral. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. It wouldn't be the end of the show if we don't go bye.
True.
Crushed it.